All right, we made it to Friday at 6 o'clock here on the East Coast. Welcome to Frontline. We begin with some breaking news out of Nevada, where authorities are investigating a potential terror attack near Boulder City after a suspect drove his car into a power substation before killing himself. Now, authorities found explosive material and what they're calling extremist literature in the suspect's hotel room. Also, big news out of Florida. The State House overwhelmingly 80-30 passed a bill that would put a property tax ban on the ballot this year. If voters pass it, which who's not going to vote, to not have property taxes? It says that all homestead properties, as they define, would be exempt from non-school property taxes beginning next year. We're going to have more on this later in the show. And a group of outraged Maryland sheriffs said that, you know what, guys, we're just not going to comply with the Governor Wes Moore's new bill that bans cooperation with ICE enforcement, calling it a betrayal to law enforcement. But first, Trump versus the Supreme Court. Trump says, fine, you won't let me do it one way? I'll do it another anyway. Let's do this. All right, so you may have noticed that the Supreme Court struck down Trump's authority to levy tariffs on other countries under the fully congressionally granted statute called the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, the IEEPA. Folks, this is going to affect everybody in their living room, at the gas pump, even at the trading desk, which is why Trump lit the Supreme Court up this afternoon.
Effective immediately, all national security tariffs under Section 232 and existing Section 301 tariffs, they're existing, they're there, remain in place. Today, I will sign an order to impose a 10% global tariff under Section 122, over and above our normal tariffs already being charged.
Basically gave the 3 conservative justices and 3 liberal justices that voted to hamstring his power the finger. I mean, it basically told the Supreme Court, like, tariffs ain't going away, and I'm going to do it another way because there's like 8 ways I can do this. He's basing this off of Kavanaugh's dissent. I mean, Kavanaugh really came through on this one. All right, great job to him. He said in his dissent, I firmly disagree with the court's holding today. The decision might not substantially constrain the president's ability to order tariffs going forward, wink, wink, nod, nod, because numerous other federal statutes authorize the president to impose tariffs and might justify most, if not all, the tariffs at issue in this case. Good job, buddy. Now, the left is absolutely losing their ever-loving mind over Trump figuring out another way to do this. Oh, Trump's ignoring the Supreme. Weird. Because they didn't say a word when Biden said this.
Supreme Court blocked me from relieving student debt, but they didn't stop me.
And then AOC, who is the face of the Democrat Party, literally went out and said to ignore the court.
But I believe that the Biden administration should ignore this ruling. It is the justices themselves, through the deeply partisan and unfounded nature of these rulings, that are undermining their own enforcement.
The bartender and liberals cheered for her. Now you have Mike Pence cheering for this decision, too, saying today in his smuggest voice as you could possibly imagine. I'm sure he was sitting there. Today's 6-3 ruling, the Supreme Court, is a victory for the American people and a win for the separation of powers enshrined in the Constitution of the United States. Wrong, wrong, wrong. Every time this guy pops up, I'm just so glad that he has been banished to the dunce corner of the Republican Party with Mitt Romney and the ghost of John McCain after his thumbs down on repealing Obamacare. Beyond all that, okay, just for just a second, what the Supreme Court just did, 6-3, was essentially order a constitutional crisis on 2 levels. First, I'm going to get to both parts here. 6 justices, 3 liberal and 3 conservative, ignored a law passed by Congress. They didn't strike it down, which they do have the authority to do in many occasions. They just ignored it. That I'll get to in a sec on that one because it's crazy. But they also likely just overstepped. There's something very specific, which is the Appropriations Clause, Article 1, Section 9, Clause 7 as well, saying no money shall be drawn from the Treasury but in consequence of appropriations made by law, which means Congress is the only person who can do that. Let me explain this. This ruling is being interpreted by many that Trump might have to pay those tariffs back Kavanaugh waded into this also in his dissent, saying, quote, the interim effects of the court's decision could be substantial. Yeah, that's the understatement of the year. The United States may be required to refund billions of dollars to importers who have paid the IEEPA tariffs, even though some importers may have already passed those costs on to consumers or others. So the Supreme Court, in order to follow this ruling as interpreted, okay, for Trump too, to follow this ruling as interpreted, the Supreme Court might be requiring Congress to pass a law to release funds from the Treasury. The Supreme Court can't order Congress to pass something. It's never been done. It's actually expressly forbidden in the separation of powers, which gives Congress the power of the purse. Courts have repeatedly emphasized that you can't pay money out that Congress didn't vote on. Specifically, Reside versus Walker, where the court said, quote, no officer, however high, not even the president, much less a secretary of the Treasury or treasurer, is empowered to pay debts of the United States generally when presented to them. However much money may be in the Treasury at any given time, not $1 of it can be made or used in the payment of anything not thus previously sanctioned by appropriate. Basically, Congress has to authorize it. So under this new ruling with the Supreme Court, where Trump might have to pay all this back, he physically can't. Trump can't just say, like, blah, blah. He's got to go to Congress, get them to appropriate it from the Treasury because we've been taking all the money in. Look, I didn't even go to college, and an hour of research, I found out more than apparently 6 Supreme Court justices. I was scratching my head as I was reading. This is the stuff that makes me question whether or not most, especially Amy Coney Barrett, Justice Roberts, and Justice Gorsuch in this case, hate Trump more than they honor the law. 2 of which Trump put on the freaking court. Folks, it is very important to understand this in case, I don't know, we have to dump some tea in the harbor that will probably still have tariffs on it, mind you, thanks to Trump, which a lot of Americans are thinking right about now. Not just because of this, but because of the entire judiciary trying to stop Trump at every corner. Clarence Thomas, God bless this guy. I hope he lives to be like 200, okay? Noted how Trump is well within the law to do these tariffs in its current format in his dissent. He said, quote, neither the statutory text nor the Constitution provide a basis for ruling against the president. He further noted that Congress authorized the president to regulate importation, quote, which has always included duties and tariffs throughout history. The statute clearly backs Donald Trump. For years, other countries have been bending us over. They have been taking us to the cleaners with trade, unbalanced tariffs, manipulating supply chains, i.e., if you remember COVID, we ran out of antibiotics. We didn't have masks that didn't work anyway, but we didn't have paper plates or cups. You couldn't even buy toilet paper, folks. This is how this applies to our kitchen tables. Trump is trying to make sure that we are not reliant on other countries, that they are not charging us 30 times as much as they're charging other countries for antibiotics as they do. In 1976, that was when the National Emergencies Act, and then in 1977, the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, which we've been doing this under, passed. And it was specifically done to narrow presidential powers. Okay, this is, stay with me here. This was mostly in response to things like Truman, who declared war in Korea for the Korean War under the emergency protection without Congress. Nixon ended the gold standard. These are the reasons they passed this, okay? So Congress moves to narrow this power of the president to specific things. And they noted what he can do in there, specifically Section 50 of U.S. Code 1702. Quote, the president may, under such regulations as may prescribe by means of instruction, licenses, or otherwise, or any transaction in foreign exchange. It's literally written in the statute that apparently 6 Supreme Court justices couldn't read. Look, it's so simple. Like, this is why we have laws. But I got an idea. I tell you what, we should just file an emergency petition and send it over to ACB and say, hey, guys, what the hell can I do? Let's start with that list, because that's apparently shorter than what Trump can do. It's unbelievable. SCOTUS just like threw a hand grenade and walked away. And now they've effectively made monetary and fiscal policy two things they don't do. The Supreme Court essentially just neutered the key part of Trump's foreign policy, or at least under this provision. Trump's going to do it anyway, which is what I love about him, because that's what we need to do. But this is like the one thing that Trump was able to do in real time. Congress moves at like half the speed of smell, or in reverse, pick a day, depending where Mitch McConnell, whether he's in his wheelchair or on crutches. The bureaucracy is utterly useless in D.C., so that doesn't work. This is like the one major thing that Trump has been able to wield at like the snap of his fingers, and it's brought jobs back to America, specifically the steel industry. These tariffs are about saving the American economy from outsourcing, from cheap crap from China with their stupid wrenches that snap off the second you put them on a bolt, making sure that our country is in good shape. Trump's staple from day one.
I was elected to represent the citizens of Pittsburgh, not Paris.
Boom. So I hope, you know what? I hope the Supreme Court finds their time in their busy schedule to take their robe off and go and tour a steel plant in Michigan or a manufacturing facility in Ohio that started working again because Trump's tariffs made their product competitive over child labor in China. Go look that person in the eye, Chief Justice or Gorsuch or ACB. Go look that person who's working and happily working. Go right in their face and just tear that law right up in their face. Do it right in their face to make sure that that steel worker now knows that you're the one who said that you don't want them to put food on their table because you're just spitting in their face. It's unbelievable. Coming up, the deep state protects its secrets, millions of dollars in taxpayer cash for flagging misinformation. Stays hidden. Wait until you hear who's behind that one. But first, tax theft. All taxation is theft, but specifically in Nashville, an iconic business slammed with a 365% property tax hike in 1 year, which is more than rent and net profit combined. Co-owner of Acme Feed and Seed, Tom Morales, sounds off next.
The 47th President of the United States of America.
And, you know, I wouldn't say Fox has been exactly perfect. Fox has been a big difference of Fox between now and what it was 4 years ago, as you know. But we have others that come along, and they're doing well, and Newsmax has been really good, and, you know, others are coming along. And people are seeing that they're watching these conservative networks.
President Trump is right. That's why millions of Americans are tuning into Newsmax for the real news they can trust.
1 in 4 taxpayers was a victim of identity theft.
Like me.
That's 1 in 4 hardworking, honest Americans who lost billions in refunds. During tax season, everyone is vulnerable.
We're not just tax-paying Americans.
We're fraud-paying Americans.
And we're not paying anymore.
With up to $3 million in coverage, LifeLock fixes identity theft guaranteed and gets your money back.
I'm a martial artist, a skydiver, a pilot, and all of them require your feet to work. Get up in the morning, and it felt like I was standing on marbles on my heel. When I went into the Good Feet store, the fitting was personalized. It was all about me. You put in the arch supports, and your day becomes better, and the sun shines, the unicorns run by, and, you know, it's a good life. I'm Randy, and that's my Good Feet story.
See for yourself with a free personalized arch support fitting at the Good Feet store.
These days, supporting the right causes matters more than ever. That's why I chose Patriot Mobile. They're not just a great mobile service provider, they're all about giving back. Every bill helps support causes we believe in: family, faith, and freedom. You get great nationwide coverage on all 3 main networks. Even better, you're doing it with an American company that stands up for us. It's time to make the switch, y'all. Let's support a wireless company that's got our back. Go to patriotmobile.com and make the switch today.
Hello, everyone. It's President Donald J. Trump, and it's Trump time. Check out this red beauty. It's one of my new watches. Wear it proudly on your wrist, and everyone will know exactly what it's for, who it represents. It's really going to be something special. It's for your favorite president. Get your watch today at gettrumpwatches.com. These make a great gift. It's Trump time.
Folks, we just mentioned the tariffs, and I wanted to bring in U.S. Trade Representative Ambassador Jamieson Greer. All right, Ambassador, I realize that this is like a complex issue, but this is Trump's going to put it in anyway under another provision. Tell us a little bit about that.
That's exactly right. The way to think about this is that the trade policy and tariff policy remain the same. We'll just use different legal tools to carry forward that policy. We have a variety of tools under statutes that exist, most of them very strongly tested by the courts, and some of which are tariffs existing today under these tools. So we will use those tools to move forward.
Ambassador, one of the big things is, and the left has said that, the tariffs are destroying the markets and all these things. The stock market closed up like 200 points today after Trump not only announced that he was going to keep the tariffs in place under another provision, but also add an additional 10% global tariff, and the markets ended up. Who are these experts?
Well, they're ones I don't believe. They're the experts that presided over the offshoring of all of U.S. manufacturing for the past 30 years, so I don't pay too much attention to them. I think the market's reaction shows that they appreciate the continuity in the program that the president signaled and the confidence that it brings to the markets.
Yeah, well, I like the confidence that I have in my man right now, who's just basically doing what needs to be done for America. But, another guy, and I'll say this all the time, he's my favorite guy that I like to admit that I was wrong about, which is Secretary Scott Bessent. Okay, this guy rocks, silencing all the same experts. And he and Trump, they've been making all these plans, and it's full steam ahead. Tax revenue will be unchanged in 2026. Roll this.
Despite the misplaced gloating from Democrats, ill-informed media outlets, and the very people who gutted our industrial base, the court did not rule against President Trump's tariffs. 6 justices simply ruled that IEEPA authorities cannot be used to raise even $1 of revenue. This administration will invoke alternative legal authorities to replace the IEEPA tariffs.
And, the ruling went on, and President Trump spoke about this today. He said, he's not allowed to take any money in tariffs, but he can literally stop all the trade under the same law that they just kind of struck down today?
Yes, it's truly absurd, and this is why we had 3 esteemed Supreme Court justices rule with us, the dissenters. The law in question, the emergency statute, is very broad. It allows the president to regulate imports. And what is the quintessential historic way that you regulate imports? Through tariffs. That's what it says in the statute. You can regulate imports. So to come down and read that out of the meaning of regulating imports is crazy, and it creates a nonsensical result like the secretary was talking about.
Yeah. No, the other thing, too, is there's Democrats now like Gavin Newsom who are, basically taking this as a win. Roll this real quick.
Donald Trump is increasingly unhinged. Even his hand-picked Supreme Court said what he was doing was lawless. Donald Trump should return that money immediately. He has an obligation.
Ambassador, I couldn't help but realize that also Gavin Newsom is talking about refunding money that he doesn't think should be spent. High-speed rail that didn't get built, Medicare fraud, homeless stuff. I mean, he's got like hundreds of billions of dollars that he just lost in his state. Should we get that back too?
Yeah, he doesn't get points for consistency, for sure. I mean, people like him and others, they love globalization. They love all the policies that led to 30 years of offshoring manufacturing. That's what they love, and that's what they want. They want the status quo ante. They want to help billionaires. That's what they want. The president's trying to help workers. He's trying to help people making steel, people making autos. And the Democrats have shown they don't want that. They used to like tariffs. All these union leaders used to argue for it. And today we have union members who vote for the president because of tariffs. And so in one way, it's good to have the Democrats really squarely and honestly say, we believe in foreign countries more than America.
And briefly, sir, I mentioned earlier in my show about the fact that this could create a constitutional crisis if Trump has to somehow pay it back, because he can't appropriate this himself. He's got to go to Congress, and Congress is not going to do that.
Yeah, this is all money that went to the general fund, and it came in, and it's a matter for the courts. The Supreme Court was silent on this issue because it's a complex one, and so the Court of International Trade, which is the district court that will handle this, they'll have to give instructions on how this might proceed. So I don't know. We'll see how it comes out.
Well, Ambassador, you sound like the right guy to be helping out with this problem. We appreciate it very much, sir.
Thank you. Have a great evening.
All right, a Nashville icon is on the brink thanks to its liberal city hall's tax hammer. Yes, Nashville, the city proper, is actually governed quite liberally compared to the rest of the conservative state. A well-known lower Broadway business, Acme Feed and Seed. I've actually been there myself. It's a multi-story bar and restaurant, live music. It's a venue. Had their property taxes just hiked from $129,000 to $600,000 a year. 365% jump. The appeal is already in motion, but the deadline's like at the end of this month. So one of Music City's last true originals could actually close. Co-owner of Acme Feed and Seed, Tom Morales. Tom, this is such BS.
Well, it's punitive for sure. And I listened to your thing on the tariffs and different things. This isn't really framed for me in a right versus left. It's us against them. When you give $750 million to build a stadium, and overnight her net worth goes up $900 million. When you give, Bezos tax breaks for 25 years, when you give Oracle tax breaks for 20 years, and then who gets to pay for it?
Yeah.
Me.
I mean,
and everybody in Nashville.
That's actually a fantastic point. They are giving these guys tax-free for years to build data centers that are sucking up all the electricity and making it cost more for you. Look, we fought the Revolutionary War over 2.5% tax hike in a breakfast beverage. I think you are right to stick your middle finger in the air. How is the appeal going to go, you think?
Well, I mean, we've got everything on our side to win. I think what they're doing is really basically illegal. I mean, you can't expect someone to put in their business plan, hey, your property tax is going from $129,000 to $600,000. It's more than our rent. It's more than our net profit. It's a pass-through expense and a triple net lease. Every small business owner in Nashville is about to go out of business.
Yeah. Well, the crazy thing is, too, they asked the Nashville mayor, who's a lib, Freddie O'Connell, about this, and he literally said, quote, "It's not up to me whether he keeps that business open. The market evolves. New businesses start even as beloved old businesses close." What an idiot.
Well, that probably sealed his fate. He's going to be a one-term mayor for sure, because, I mean, as many red state people are mad at him, blue state people are mad at him. I see greed doesn't come in one color but green, and they all are. They equivocate. The state just gave them the 60 largest companies in Tennessee a $1.5 billion tax break. Who gets to pay for it? Yeah. We do, the people. And I'm right next to the Cumberland River. We're thinking about a little tea party down there.
Yeah. Well, you asked for a meeting with him. Has he accepted that? Is he going to take that?
No. I mean, I went probably 3 months through channels. Finally, I wrote a letter. Basically, the thing that's at stake here is Nashville. The heart and soul of Nashville is music. Every city in America and the world would want to be called Music City. And what are we cutting? We're cutting 90 jobs. We're cutting music budgets. When Patsy Cline came to town, she wasn't a star. She came here to become a star.
Right.
Now you've got just plastic buildings all up and down the Music Road.
Yeah, well, not more than 100 years ago, people got tarred and feathered for doing horrible things like this. Tom, we appreciate it. Good luck, sir.
Thank you. I appreciate the time. I really do. Thank you.
Coming up, the Epstein story isn't over. It's just actually getting uglier as we find out more and more. Turns out Obama's ex-White House counsel, the now ex-Goldman Sachs top lawyer, shared non-public Secret Service prostitution scandal details with, quote, Uncle Jeffrey, as she called him. We're going to break that down in just a sec.
It's our America. We built it. Courage, freedom. Millions go to Newsmax when they need to know. Start today on the free Newsmax app. Newsmax is real news for real people.
As a neurologist, my patients are often concerned with age-related memory decline. I recommend Cunol Brain Health with 2 powerful, high-absorption ingredients clinically shown to improve memory, focus, attention, and more. Cunol, the brand I trust.
Woke up and I said, the pain is gone.
And I've got much better range of motion. I'm able to carry these big canvases around.
When I woke up in the morning, I could open and close my hands, stand on my feet without them killing me.
If you're tired of pain relief that doesn't last, it's time for a different approach with Relief Factor. Relief Factor is a 100% drug-free daily supplement that actively supports your body's response to inflammation, taking on pain at its source for relief that stays with you all day, every day.
Now I'm getting up in the morning, enjoying the day, gardening, woodworking, and just the sense of life that I didn't have before.
The secret to Relief Factor's effectiveness is its science-backed formula of 4 natural ingredients, working through 4 different metabolic pathways, helping reduce, even eliminate pain for good. If pain is part of your life, it's time to give Relief Factor a try. Right now, our 3-week quick start is only $19.95. Simply call or go online to get started.
Within 3 days, I had complete relief from the pain in my hands, and I've been taking it ever since.
Since Relief Factor is 100% drug-free, it's safe to take every day. In fact, the longer you take it, the more effective it is. So make Relief Factor part of your daily routine and see the difference it can make in your life. Right now, try our 3-week quick start for only $19.95, less than $1 a day.
I have told so many of my friends about the experience that I had with Relief Factor. In fact, I've even given them some. And so now we're all out of pain.
Whether it's your back, neck, joints, or muscles, don't go for a quick fix and just mask your pain temporarily. Give your body relief that stays with you all day, every day. Because when you feel better, you live better.
Relief Factor literally changed my life.
Call or go online to try Relief Factor's 3-week quick start today.
Joining us is Dr. Drew from the Wellness Company with advice for dealing with seasonal colds and flu. Doctor?
Cold and flu season is here, and every year you or a loved one gets sick. Your doctor can't see you. Waiting in a crowded urgent care is brutal. This is a particularly bad cold and flu season, and it's why doctors suggest every family needs an emergency medical kit. Your medical emergency kit is filled with essential prescriptions. It includes antibiotics like generic Z-Pak to get well faster, amoxicillin for pneumonia, strep throat, ear infections, plus prescriptions for nausea and UTIs, and even ivermectin. It's easy. Just match your symptoms to the prescription in your guidebook or call the telemedicine doctor standing by. Take your medication early and feel better faster. Having a medical emergency kit is like having an urgent care in your home. No waiting to see a doctor, no lines at the pharmacy.
Smart advice. We've shared the website and discount code below to save viewers $45. Order now and your kit will be rushed to your door. Thank you, doctor.
All right, the Epstein cover-up continues. We told you, again, folks, it's not about Epstein, all right? He's probably alive somewhere or dead, I don't know what. But this is about powerful people getting away with stuff. We told you about Obama's White House counsel, Catherine Rumler, who was just stepped down as the Goldman Sachs top lawyer after a new trove of emails showed that her relationship with Jeffrey Epstein was actually a lot more than she even admitted. In a dozen or so emails, she was actually dishing out non-public White House secrets to, as she called him, Uncle Jeffrey, on the 2012 Secret Service prostitution scandal. Let some agents take the fall for a staffer. Jason Chaffetz was the one conducting the Secret Service investigation, posting on X, quote, "The White House denied information, lacked candor, and did everything they could to impede our investigation. The lengths the Obama administration went to hide the scandal and wrongdoing was something that we had to deal with on a daily basis throughout his 8 years in office." Nobody's in jail. I mean, well, Prince Andrew was briefly in jail, but then he got out an hour later. So, can we arrest somebody, some justice? Investigative journalist Vicky Ward. All right, Vicky, you've, like I said, we had you on last week. You have followed this from day one, and now we have the White House counsel leaking, let's just say at a minimum, sensitive information to a convicted pedophile.
Correct, Carl. I mean, I do think Catherine Rumler should be on Congress's list. She needs to come and tell Congress what she knows based on these emails. Because actually, even though I think the emails are dated 2014, right? So it's 2 years after this had happened. She is giving Epstein access to things that, what happened in her time in the White House that the public doesn't have access to. I mean, to me, that rises to the same sort of level as what Prince Andrew, the former Prince Andrew, is being investigated for, using public office for private benefit. And I think Kathy Rumler does have real questions that need to be addressed.
Well, the other thing, too, is this woman was paid $50 million over the last 3 years at Goldman Sachs as their general counsel. $50 million. That's a ton of cheddar. And she's over there doing this. I want to know what connection she had that may have gotten her that job in the first place.
Well, yes, you know, that is a great question. You know, I don't know if you and I talked about this last time. One does wonder if it had a connection to Epstein based on the fact that one of her email exchanges was about who was going to employ her in the future. And Jeffrey Epstein in 2016 sent her an email saying Ken Griffin, who runs big hedge fund Citadel, was now single. And she wrote back to him saying, oh, so I see you want to send one of your Russians so that I can get comp. In other words, she was considering becoming general counsel there. So, I mean, it does lead one to wonder.
Yeah, I got to cover Trump because everybody's like, oh, you know, the left is like, Trump's in the Epstein files. And obviously, you know, the one person they had, okay, the one person they had that was like, oh, Trump did all these bad things. She later admitted that it wasn't true. But now the View is trying to say, oh, whoa, hold on, being it's not as bad because, you know, people like Whoopi Goldberg are in it now.
Yeah, I mean, look, I have always said about Donald Trump that I have never heard any allegations of abuse or trafficking from any of the survivors that I have spoken to. I think his problem, his political problem with this story is that he's kind of changed his narrative a little bit. And the irony here is that the emails kind of show him as the good guy. The emails show him as going to the police chief in 2006, but suggesting that he did know what Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell were up to. I mean, the way he spoke to reporters yesterday, I think he's realizing that actually this is kind of a win for him.
Yeah, I think so too. Look, Lex Wessner too. This guy he's you know, his attorney was actually caught on a hot mic during the deposition. Just watch this real quick.
It was just regularly done. Answer the question. Okay.
I mean, he's laughing, but it doesn't look. So also, Ohio Governor Mike DeWine, who, by the way, took $25,000 in donations from Wexler. He's like, no, we can leave Wexler's name on all these buildings all over the state.
Right. Well, look, I mean, I'm not sure that Les Wexner answered a whole bunch of stuff yesterday, really. I mean, his story, as given to Congress, defies belief. He's a self-made billionaire, and he says that he handed over complete control of his finances to this one guy, Jeffrey Epstein. And I know from my own reporting that the people around Wexner who work for his company, The Limited, advised him strongly not to do that. So the question remains, why would a billionaire do that in the first place?
And the question is only for a good reason, and I wonder what that was. We'll find it. Vicky, we appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
All right, coming up, Obama said the Republicans are mean and the divisive party, yet his former National Security Advisor, Susan Rice, just basically wants to go scorched earth on Republicans. Next in our Culture Clash.
The press won't report the real story.
The American people are actually very smart.
Ridiculous statements.
These guys are just plain weird.
Actual scandals.
Even the immunity decision. I mean, that decision was so misreported.
That's my job, and I aim to do it every night.
Whoa, 90% off? I have to purchase now. My phone!
That was a scam link.
Try this one. We installed PCmatic.
PCmatic blocks ransomware before threats can strike.
It's 100% made in America security.
Trusted by homes, businesses, governments, and now you. Stop guessing.
Start blocking.
Get PCmatic.
Hello, everyone. It's President Donald J. Trump, and it's Trump time. Check out this red beauty. It's one of my new watches. Wear it proudly on your wrist, and everyone will know exactly what it's for, who it represents. It's really going to be something special. It's for your favorite president. Get your watch today at gettrumpwatches.com. These make a great gift. It's Trump time.
As a physician, I fielded many patient questions about ways to prevent cancer. And while we learn more every day, we're still not there. But it was my own cancer diagnosis that motivated my total immersion into the research with one goal: to keep my cancer from ever returning. The human body is incredibly capable of protecting us, but we have to do our part. We have to give it the ammunition it needs to fight. My studies led me to create SHIELD, the first of its kind protective nutraceutical system. SHIELD combines 10 high-dose natural ingredients to super boost your immune system and support cellular detoxification. SHIELD is just that, a shield of rare and powerful nutrients to support cellular health and to help fend off disease, so you can live life to the fullest.
Save $25 with promo code LIVE at victoryagainstcancer.com.
When it comes to my daily heart health supplement, I've got 3 rules. It's got to be plant-based, it's got to be doctor recommended, and it's got to be Super Beets from Human.
Super Beets is the #1 cardiologist recommended beet brand for heart health support with clinically studied grapeseed extract for nearly 2 times more effective blood pressure support than diet and exercise alone.
Super Beets works. I swear by it, and I know you're going to love it too.
Try Super Beets today at human.com.
Don't kibble your dog.
Hey, Dr. Marty.
Hey, back.
What's wrong with this?
Let's check it out. It's still kibble, which means they're ultra-processed. At Dr. Marty, we freeze-dried premium meats, fruit, and vegetables, and they're gonna love it.
48% of Americans don't get enough magnesium, which is vital for bone, nerve, and muscle health. I recommend Cunol's Magnesium Glycinate. It's formulated for high absorption and is gentle on the stomach. Cunol, the brand I trust.
When curiosity strikes about the everyday lives of your family, we're here with answers only your ancestors can provide. See their stories at Ancestry.
All right, we got a special kickoff to our Culture Clash today. We got host of John Bachman now, John Bachman himself, and author of this great new book, Turning Point, How Reagan Liberated Grenada and Won the Cold War. Hold that thing up for me.
Right here, Carl.
That thing's actually
it's right
dope.
here.
All right.
And it's got a great blurb from Carl Higbie right here on the back.
Who knew I could even write? No, but seriously, one of the things that you go into is like the personal stories of like actual dudes on the ground and what they went through in this like really brief conflict.
One of my favorite interviews in this book is I talked to one of the helicopter pilots from Task Force 160, which, as you know, used to carry you into a lot of dangerous positions all over the world.
And get us out.
This is really where one of the first operations that they conducted, they had just been created because of what happened with the crashing of the helicopters, trying to rescue the Iranian hostages. But this was the mission. And there was one particular story that was told in there. They were on their way flying on the transport planes into Barbados, which is where they were going to take off to do the invasion of Grenada. And there's a man named Captain Keith Lucas, and he was talking about the fact, he's like, we're going into some real combat in Grenada. Most people didn't really, they dismissed what the military operation was going to be, but he knew the risk, and he actually got shot down. It took him a couple days to recover his body. But it speaks to the fact that this was a real war, even though it lasted, the whole operation lasted less than a week. We lost 19 service members, 4 Navy SEALs died, but the victory was consequential, and it really sent a message to the Soviets that we were not going to cede any more territory in the Western Hemisphere. And the parallel today is what we saw with President Trump in Venezuela. You cannot cede an inch of territory to communists in the Western Hemisphere.
Which is why I want to turn Iran into Lake America. But I actually want to bring in my buddy Cliff Maloney right now on this stuff. Cliff, we got a lot of things going on in this world today. Obviously, Grenada is long past, but Susan Rice, who should have been long past, of all people, offering a taste of what's coming to those that haven't, taken a knee, as she's saying, to the powers of Trump. Roll this.
If these corporations think that the Democrats, when they come back in power, are going to, play by the old rules, I think they've got another thing coming. There will be an accountability agenda.
So 77 million people that voted in a lot of these companies, too, that also support Trump as in economic policies and stuff like that, they're going to be all held accountable, Cliff?
Yeah, and look, we learned this from the Biden DOJ, right? Look at Arctic Frost, 92 conservative orgs, conservative leaders that face retribution for what? Because they have certain ideology that doesn't align with the Democrats? Carl, we know this. If the Democrats threaten you with a good time, believe me, they're going to be coming right back to go after some of these conservative orgs. And it's a shame. I mean, it should be something where they're fair, they're balanced, they're trying to actually have justice in America.
Yeah.
But it's obviously one-sided.
Yeah, it clearly is one-sided. Speaking of one-sided, thankfully, Florida is one-sided Republican. John, you live down there.
Yes.
State House just advanced this whole thing where, 80 to 30 in the State House to basically say, we're not going to have non-school property tax anymore. This is huge.
It is huge. The whole belief, and this is, I think, cuts to the core of what many Floridians believe, is that you don't actually own something if you have to pay for it every year. And if you don't pay for it, they can take it away from you. And that's kind of the philosophy behind this. Florida, is...
That only happens with people who don't own cannons, John.
That's true. Maybe I need to get one. Do you have one I can borrow?
I have 3.
Okay, I will take one of your cannons from you. But this is a fantastic thing and a great idea. And as a Florida homeowner, you wonder where your money goes a lot of times. And obviously you have to pay for roads and bridges and police and firefighters and schools. But they think they can work it out where you won't have to pay property taxes anymore.
We may have to cut government. Music to my ears. But Norway, taxes suck, Cliff. Norway's a perfect example of how, the rich people that they always demonize and always want to tax just because there's less of them and it's easier to get people to hate them. It never works. So Norway is the epicenter of this. In 2021, the Libs won an election over there, and they decided they're going to put a 1.5 or 1.1% tax on rich people. And they were like, we're going to get all this revenue. And it turned out people worth $54 billion left the country.
You cannot tax yourself to prosperity. I mean, gosh, just look at California, right? California is learning this as they continue to just pound the taxes. People are leaving, right? And that's what people do. They vote with their feet, right? John just mentioned Florida. 1.9 million people have moved to Florida since 2020.
Yeah.
Right? These idiot politicians have no idea, and they think the only way to solve problems is more government, more taxation, and the people are rejecting it.
Yeah. John, I got to ask you before we go, and I got 30 seconds. Aliens. Trump comes out, Obama says there are aliens, which is a violation of classification. Then Trump says, hey, you know what? I'm just going to release it all.
Yeah, well, I had a conversation with Ed Mitchell, an astronaut, who told me aliens are real. And I haven't met a better source than that. So I'm on board with aliens being real, and I can't wait to dig into these files.
Yeah. And if we went to the moon or not. All right.
100% went to the moon.
All right, Cliff. By the way, fun fact, John Bachman, ladies and gentlemen, is the reason I am at Newsmax. He brought me in here, 10?
Maybe your talent had something to do with it too, Carl, but I was happy to make the introductions.
Because I bought you dinner. All right. We go way back. Anyway, coming up,
with you.
He's back. Judge Boasberg, and this time he's back with not on the Trump administration's train. What does this tell you? We'll be back in a second.
Every day across the globe, big business agendas go unseen by investors. Things that go against your core values and beliefs. It's time to know your investments. Abortion, alternative lifestyles, gender and identity confusion. If you believe in protecting marriage and life, children, innocence, guarding masculinity, restoring families, defending religious liberty. Invest with your values. Before investing, carefully consider the fund's investment objectives, risks, charges, and expenses of the investment company. This and other important information can be found in the fund's prospectus. To obtain a copy, visit timothyplan.com or call 800-846-7526. Read each prospectus carefully before investing. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal.
Our disease. Chicks and fleas. Intestinal worms. 15
15 million dogs and counting know Simparica Trio offers triple protection against heartworm disease, ticks and fleas, and intestinal worms, all with 1 monthly chew. This drug class has been associated with neurologic side effects, including seizures. Use with caution in dogs with or without a history of these disorders. Don't just protect, triple protect.
Omaha Steaks semi-annual sale is back. Save 50% site-wide on America's best steaks, chicken, burgers, and more. All backed by our 100% guarantee. Right now, you'll get 12 Omaha Steaks burgers free with your order. Visit omahasteaks.com/TV today.
You woke up with a sore throat and a low-grade fever. You know you are getting sick, so here's your choices. You can get sicker and miss work. Try to see a doctor this week or sit hours in a crowded waiting room at urgent care.
I have a smarter option for you. Open your medical emergency kit. Match your symptoms to doctor-recommended prescription in your booklet and take the right meds now and get well faster.
This is not a first aid kit. It's like having an urgent care in your home. It includes doctor-prescribed medications to treat over 39 medical issues like respiratory infections, strep throat, pneumonia, UTIs, and more.
No waiting to see the doctor and no standing in line at the pharmacy. It's right here.
Every home should have at least one medical emergency kit, and here's how to order.
Order online and save $45. Your kit to treat dozens of common and serious illnesses is rushed to your door. Visit urgentcarekit.com/news, promo code NEWS. That's urgentcarekit.com/news, promo code NEWS.
As a cardiologist, when I put my patients on a statin to reduce cholesterol, I also tell them it can deplete their CoQ10 levels. I recommend taking Cunol CoQ10. Cunol has 3 times better absorption than regular CoQ10. Cunol, the brand I trust.
So you remember the Twitter files back in 2022. It was revealed that the Biden administration paid then Twitter $3.5 million to spy on and censor Americans for speech that the administration didn't like, whether it be on vaccines or the 2020 election or Hunter Biden's laptop that we all know is all true now. Judicial Watch, so they sued immediately following the Twitter file release over a FOIA request demanding to know how much Twitter had been paid by the FBI from 2016 onward. Now, initially, the FBI refused. Then they released 44 pages of heavily redacted information, claiming it was protected over sensitive law enforcement data. So fast forward to now, where the Trump DOJ is still protecting this data and just got backup from James Boasberg, that guy, the one who keeps ruling against Trump on immigration. Boasberg sided with the Justice Department. I don't want to say the Trump administration because the Justice Department. Imagine that. The ruling that revealing the payments that could expose, they're saying sensitive law enforcement procedures, but we would just want to know how crooked everything was. Jeffrey Lord is a contributing editor with the American Spectator, and Matthew Foldi is editor-in-chief of the Washington Reporter. So, all right, look, Jeff, how many times has the government paid someone, tried to not talk about it, and then been busted, and they always got egg on their face?
I'm afraid there's probably too many instances for us to count. You know, the bottom line with all of this is that the left, the American left in our case, is dedicated to power. That's what this is all about. Mm-hmm. And any and every opportunity that they feel they have to get power, to increase power, to use power, to go after their enemies or their adversaries, they will do it. And really, that's really what we're seeing here.
Yeah. Here's another thing we're seeing, because it's hard to not see J.B. Pritzker. His priorities are way out of order. Like, apparently, he just lost the Chicago Bears to Indiana. Bear down. All right? Same day that this ad dropped.
Trump. Vote Juliana. Trump. Vote Juliana.
Trump. Vote Juliana.
They said it, not me. I'm Juliana Stratton, and I'm proud to have lived my whole life on the south side of Chicago. I'm not scared of a wannabe dictator. I'm running for Senate to stand up to Donald Trump, just like they said.
Trump.
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 Vote Juliana.
Okay, Foldy.
So, J.B. Pritzker is built like an offensive lineman, and he's a fat monster. But unlike offensive linemen, they're actually incredibly fit, which doesn't make sense.
They move fast.
But they're strong. They can't run they move fast. They're powerful. J.B. Pritzker has been this fat. I worked for the governor, Bruce Rauner, who Pritzker defeated in 2018. So I've been tracking Pritzker for a while. I think he's actually gotten fatter in the past years, which actually seems very difficult. Now, I will say, Carl, it's not a given that the Bears will go to Indiana. And if I were a football team, I would definitely want to avoid going to Indiana, where you look at the Colts. I mean, this is a franchise that is cursed with Daniel Jones as their best potential quarterback here. I mean, you might be better off with Jaden Daniels, maybe. But Illinois is chasing away every business, every iconic Illinois and Chicago business that can leave the state, sadly will. Look, as a guy who lived in Chicago, as a former elected official in Chicago, I hope that Soldier Field does remain the home of the Bears. But fans have to understand that they won't get stabbed to death, shot to death, or taxed to death for the football team to stay in Chicago. And Democrats in both Chicago and Cook County are almost hell-bent on chasing that team right over the border into Indiana.
To your curse comments, I will say that, nobody's going to do worse than my Jets. Let's just leave it at that. Okay.
That's for sure true.
Jeff Lord, you've been in D.C. for long enough to know that things don't always work properly, and sometimes the wrong word gets out. Now, the VA it's correcting the narrative, but it's also reversing course a little bit on a new rule. And actually, Doug Collins, I talked to him about this, and he was very adamant that this gets right for all the veterans out there, that would require veterans' disability ratings to be calculated on how well vets function on the medication and not rated on the disability for the underlying condition. So it's like if you blow your arm off and you have like shadow pains, but they give you a medication for the shadow pains, you should be rated on no pain but still missing an arm. Doug Collins is like, we're not doing that, okay? And also, the way it was portrayed in the media was totally wrong.
Yeah, the thing that gets me, I'm not a doctor and I don't play one on television, but I gotta say, they really have to pay attention to what the medical community is saying here. And one of my problems with any cabinet department is that they are all about politics, first, last, and always, as opposed to their nominal agenda. And I thought I was in Washington when they moved the Bureau of Veterans Affairs and made it a cabinet department, and ditto with taking an education bureau and making that the U.S. Department of Education. The minute you start doing this, you're going to get all kinds of bureaucracy and bureaucrats involved, and therein lies the problem.
Yeah, it is. Well, we got to leave it right there. Jeff Lord, Matt Foldi, we appreciate it. Go Jets.
Have a great weekend, guys.
All right. Well, before we go, if there is one mantra I live by, never skip leg day. I'll explain why next.
The press won't report the real story.
The American people are actually very smart.
Ridiculous statements.
These guys are just plain weird.
Actual scandals.
Even the immunity decision. I mean, that decision was so misreported.
That's my job, and I aim to do it every night.
I'm David Wright, former New York Mets third baseman, and I support the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. I've seen firsthand the great work they do helping our firefighters, our police, and our soldiers and their families. T2T is asking for your support for these brave men and women. Just $11 a month will go a long way and make a big difference. Go to T2T.org to find out more. Let's go Mets, and let's do good together.
Prevagen, official sponsor of U.S. figure skating. Sonia and Gerald trust Prevagen for their brains, and this is their story.
I'm Sonia.
And I'm Gerald, and we live in Jacksonville, Florida.
We are both military veterans, and we provide dental care for underserved communities. We have a very busy life.
We take Prevagen for our brains.
I would honestly say I like the way that Prevagen makes me feel. At the end of the day, I feel confident and amazing.
Prevagen, for your brain.
If society collapsed tomorrow, how long would your family last? If you run out of food, probably not very long. That's why over 3 million American families trust My Patriot Supply for preparedness. Right now, you can get their best-selling 3-month food kit for $100 off. It's 3 months worth of real, hearty meals that give you 2,000 calories a day and last up to 25 years. Go to MyPatriotSupply.com to get your 3-month kit for $100 off. The discount won't last long, so go to MyPatriotSupply.com today. That's MyPatriotSupply.com.
Woke up and I said, the pain is gone.
And I've got much better range of motion. I'm able to carry these big canvases around.
When I woke up in the morning, I could open and close my hands, stand on my feet without them killing me.
If you're tired of pain relief that doesn't last, it's time for a different approach with Relief Factor. Relief Factor is a 100% drug-free daily supplement that actively supports your body's response to inflammation, taking on pain at its source. for relief that stays with you all day, every day.
Now I'm getting up in the morning, enjoying the day, gardening, woodworking, and just the sense of life that I didn't have before.
The secret to Relief Factor's effectiveness is its science-backed formula of 4 natural ingredients, working through 4 different metabolic pathways, helping reduce, even eliminate pain for good. If pain is part of your life, it's time to give Relief Factor a try. Right now, our 3-week quick start is only $19.95. Simply call or go online to get started.
Within 3 days, I had complete relief from the pain in my hands, and I've been taking it ever since.
Since Relief Factor is 100% drug-free, it's safe to take every day. In fact, the longer you take it, the more effective it is. So make Relief Factor part of your daily routine and see the difference it can make in your life. Right now, try our 3-week quick start for only $19.95, less than $1 a day.
I have told so many of my friends about the experience that I had with Relief Factor. In fact, I've even given them some. And so now we're all out of pain.
Whether it's your back, neck, joints, or muscles, don't go for a quick fix and just mask your pain temporarily. Give your body relief that stays with you all day, every day. Because when you feel better, you live better.
Relief Factor literally changed my life.
Call or go online to try Relief Factor's 3-week quick start today.
I say it literally every day. It's a mantra that I live by. Never skip leg day. And you might have not heard about this, but probably you should know that thick thighs save lives. Guess what? Science backs it up. Danish scientists followed more than 2,800 men and women for over a decade, researching the link between thigh muscle mass and health outcomes. And what did they find? Weird. Participants with thighs smaller than 24 inches, means they don't hit the squat rack, had significantly higher risk of developing heart disease and premature death. Because more muscular thighs, because swole is the goal, help your body handle sugar and energy better, reducing your risk for type 2 diabetes and high blood pressure and other metabolic disorders. Now, that is real science. And I want to leave you with one thing. It's probably the greatest lyrical masterpiece ever written. I warn you, it may bring a tear to your eye. And it's a fantastic poem by a weightlifter who said, "Down this road in a gym far away, a young man was heard to say, 'No matter what I do, my legs won't grow.' He tried leg extensions, leg curls, and leg presses too, trying to cheat these sissy workouts he'd do. From the corner of the gym where the big men train through the cloud of chalk and in the midst of pain, where the noise is made with big 45s, a deep voice bellowed as he rapped his knees, and a very big man with leg like trees, laughing as he snatched another plate from the stack, chalked his hands and his massive, monstrous back, and said, 'Boys, stop lying. Don't say you've forgotten. The trouble with you, you ain't been squatting, Bob.'"
That was great.
I mean, I'm emotional right now. I am.
Never skip leg day.
You'll never skip leg day, or you'll end up voting Democrat.
You will. It helps everything, including your testosterone. Go figure.
Hormones and stuff.
There it is. All right, man. Carl, have a great weekend.